If you've ever spotted a big black bird perched on a fence post, circling above a canyon, or strutting confidently through a parking lot, you've probably paused and wondered the same thing millions of people have. Is that a crow or a raven? At first glance, they look almost identical. Same dark feathers, same mysterious vibe, same reputation for intelligence and mischief. And for most of human history, people have mixed them up, used their names interchangeably, and assumed they're basically just two versions of the same bird. But here's the truth most people never realize. Crows and ravens are not only different species, they live completely different lives, think in different ways, and even play different roles in our myths, cultures, and ecosystems. Once you learn how to tell them apart, you'll never see them the same way again. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why these birds have fascinated storytellers, scientists, and civilizations for thousands of years. Let's start with the feature that stands out the moment you compare them closely: size. Ravens are the heavyweights of the crow family. A fully grown raven can stretch up to 27 inches long, with a wingspan reaching over 4 feet. When they take flight, they look powerful, broad-winged, and almost eagle-like. Crows, on the other hand, are smaller and more compact. Most measure closer to 17 inches long, with a wingspan around 3 feet. They appear lighter, quicker, and more agile in the air. Even when you don't see them side by side, ravens give off a commanding presence. Their bodies are bulkier, their necks thicker, and their overall silhouette feels sturdier and more imposing. That size difference also shows up in how they fly. Ravens are natural gliders. They soar on rising air currents and often hold their wings in a slight V shape, barely flapping as they drift across valleys, cliffs, or open landscapes. Their flight can look almost effortless, as if they're carving silent paths through the sky. Crows fly with an entirely different rhythm. They flap more frequently, moving with steady, purposeful motion. Instead of gliding long distances, they travel in direct, efficient lines, especially when commuting between feeding grounds, roosts, and neighborhoods. So if you see a black bird floating like a hawk or riding wind currents high above a canyon, you're probably looking at a raven. If it looks like it's on a mission, flap, 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 it's most likely a crow. Now look closer at the beak and head. A crow's beak is straight, clean, and relatively slim. It looks neat and precise, almost knife-like in profile. A raven's beak tells a different story. It's large, thick, and slightly curved, with a rugged and powerful shape that looks built for tearing and prying. And right below that beak, ravens have something crows don't: shaggy throat feathers. When they call or straighten their necks, those feathers puff outward, giving them a dramatic, almost regal appearance. Crows lack this feature. Their feathers lay smoother, making them appear sleeker and more streamlined. You can even tell them apart in mid-air by looking at the tail. A crow's tail spreads out evenly, forming a rounded fan shape. It looks symmetrical and smooth when they glide or land. A raven's tail narrows to a point, forming a wedge or diamond shape. It's one of the most reliable visual differences, especially from a distance. Once you've seen it a few times, you'll recognize it instantly. But here's something you'll almost always notice before you see any of those details: the sound. Crows are known for their sharp, unmistakable call. Loud, repetitive, and direct. Their classic caw carries through parks, neighborhoods, and city streets. You'll often hear multiple crows calling together, echoing across trees or rooftops as they communicate or alert each other to danger. Ravens, however, sound nothing like that. Their call is deeper, rougher, and more resonant. Instead of a bright caw, they produce a low croak that can feel eerie, ancient, and strangely haunting. It echoes across valleys and forests like a hollow drumbeat in the air. Ravens also produce a wider variety of sounds: rattles, gurgles, clicks, and even vocal imitations. Some ravens have been documented mimicking dogs, machinery, and in rare cases, fragments of human speech. So when you hear a sharp, rhythmic call, you're likely listening to a crow. When the sound feels deep, coarse, and almost otherworldly, that's a raven. Their voices hint at something much deeper: their social behavior. Crows are community-oriented. They live in groups, travel together, and form complex social networks. Large gatherings, often called murders, are not random crowds. They are structured, cooperative communities where information is shared and behavior is learned. Crows warn each other about predators, coordinate movements, and even teach younger members how to survive. Scientists have discovered that crows can recognize and remember individual human faces, especially faces that have threatened or harmed them. They pass that information on to other crows, meaning a person who angers one crow may be remembered by an entire population for years. Ravens live in a very different world. They tend to be solitary or live in bonded pairs rather than large clusters. While young ravens may gather temporarily, adults prefer space, wide open territories, cliffsides, forests, and remote landscapes. Their intelligence isn't focused on cooperation as much as independence. They rely on strategic thinking, observation, and cunning problem-solving to navigate their environment. A raven may quietly watch another animal bury its food, then return later to steal it once the coast is clear. They use deception, planning, and patience in ways that feel almost calculated. And that brings us to one of the most fascinating traits both birds share: intelligence. Crows and ravens are among the brightest animals on Earth, rivaling dolphins, elephants, and even primates in certain problem-solving tests. But they use their intelligence differently. Crows excel in social learning. They study each other, transmit knowledge across generations, and rapidly adapt to changing environments. Urban crows around the world have learned to use traffic patterns to crack nuts. They drop them into roads, wait for cars to crush them, then retrieve the shells safely once the light turns red. Others have been observed manipulating tools, organizing food thefts, and even staging distractions to trick animals away from food sources. Ravens approach intelligence from another angle: creativity and experimentation. They don't just solve problems for survival, they solve them for curiosity. Ravens have been seen playing in the snow, sliding repeatedly down hills, tossing sticks in the air, and performing aerial acrobatics with no clear purpose other than enjoyment. In controlled experiments, ravens have demonstrated the ability to plan ahead, resist immediate rewards, and manipulate objects in surprisingly strategic ways. Their intelligence feels exploratory, like an engineer testing the limits of the world. Their diets reflect these lifestyles as well. Crows are opportunists in the purest sense. They eat fruit, insects, small animals, seeds, carrion, garbage, and just about anything remotely edible. This adaptability is why they thrive in suburban neighborhoods, farmland, and dense urban environments. Ravens eat many of the same foods, but lean more toward hunting and scavenging in remote areas. They have the strength to pull apart carcasses and the patience to watch for weak prey. Ravens are also master food planners. They cache food, hiding extra pieces across different locations and returning days or weeks later. Even more impressively, ravens sometimes pretend to hide food if they suspect another raven is watching, only to secretly stash the real piece elsewhere. That level of strategic thinking suggests awareness not only of their own actions, but of what others might be planning as well. Even their lifespans set them apart. In the wild, crows typically live around 7 to 8 years, though with luck and minimal danger, some can live longer. Ravens, however, can live 2 decades or more. That extended lifespan allows ravens to form strong, lifelong bonds, refine their problem-solving skills over time, and develop increasingly complex behaviors as they age. And then, there's personality. Spend enough time watching them, and they begin to feel like characters out of a story. Crows are energetic, alert, and curious in a constant, restless way. They hop across lawns, scan rooftops, inspect every object that looks interesting, and rarely seem still for long. Ravens feel different. They move with slow confidence, almost like they're aware of their dominance in the landscape. When perched, they appear calm, statuesque, and observant, as if they understand more than they reveal. It's no surprise that throughout history, humans saw something mystical in both species. In Norse mythology, the god Odin was accompanied by 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin, symbolizing thought and memory. In some Native American traditions, ravens were seen as tricksters, creators, or messengers. Crows, meanwhile, appear in myths from Japan to Greece as symbols of transformation, intelligence, or prophecy. Across cultures, they weren't just birds. They were storytellers in feathered form. So how do you tell them apart in the real world? Watch the size. Listen to the call. Study the tail shape in flight. Notice whether the bird travels alone or as part of a crowd. Pay attention to how it moves, soaring slowly through open air or flapping directly from place to place. Once you start looking for these details, you'll realize you were never really confusing them. You just hadn't learned their language yet. Crows and ravens may share a dark coat of feathers and a long intertwined history with humanity, but they live remarkably different lives. One thrives through cooperation, adaptability, and social intelligence. The other through independence, cunning, and creative exploration. And together, they remind us that nature is never as simple as it first appears, even in the shape of a black bird on a telephone wire. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for our next video, let us know in the comments, and we may feature your suggestion in a future episode. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden differences behind everyday things, explore more of our videos across our channel family. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories hidden in the world around you.